Good morning and Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Today, Friday, November 20th, is the 75th anniversary of the beginning of the Nuremberg trials, which occurred on November 20th, 1945. In this week's Torah portion, we have the story of Isaac wanting to bless his older son Esav, and Rebekah helping Jacob disguise himself as Esav to receive the blessings from his elderly father Isaac. And the opening verse of the section describing this story says that Isaac was old and his eyes were dim. He was blind. And the literal explanation why the Torah introduces the story by telling us about Isaac's blindness is because the Torah is explaining to us how was it that Jacob was able to take the blessings from his brother Esav, because he was able to act as though he was Esav, and since his father was blind, he could not recognize him, and he was able to disguise himself and pretend that he was his older brother. But there's a deeper explanation to the Torah's words of introduction, that as Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, he chose to bless Esav, and Jacob took the blessings instead of his brother. You know, if you think about it, the deepest, most sacred moments of our lives are experienced while our eyes are closed. Every day when we recite the Shema, Jewish tradition has it that we cover our eyes as we proclaim, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." When a woman lights Shabbat candles, like this evening, women around the world light Shabbat candles and pray for their children, for their husband, for their families, they wave their hands and cover their eyes as they recite the prayers and the blessings welcoming in Shabbat. And when a bride and a groom stand under the chuppah, under the marriage canopy, Jewish tradition is that the bride has a veil over her face. The bride cannot see her groom, the groom cannot see the face of the bride. Why is it that these loftiest, deepest, most important moments of life are experienced with eyes closed? And the answer is that sometimes we see with our eyes, but sometimes our eyes actually deceive us, because the eyes can only see the superficial, the physical. It cannot see the spiritual. The eyes can only see the present. It cannot see the future. And therefore, when we close our eyes, we begin to look through the eyes of our soul, through the eyes of our heart and our mind. And then we can see not only what stands before us, but we can see what is beyond the surface, and we can see what is beyond time and space. And that is the reason why the Torah says that when Isaac prepared to bless his older child Esav, his eyes were closed, meaning he did not look at Esav in the present. Yes, his son Esav was wicked, but he looked at his inner potential. He saw the future. And indeed, our rabbis tell us that 3 great descendants came from Esav. One was the great sage Rabbi Akiva, second one was Rabbi Meir, and Onkelos, the Aramaic translation of the Torah printed in almost every Chumash. These were 3 great converts to Judaism who were descendants, direct descendants of Esav. So that was what Isaac was looking to, the deeper potential of his son Esav. And therefore, despite his present wickedness, he chose, like a loving father, to bless him, to draw out that inner goodness. However, Rebekah says no. I understand the love of a parent, and we have to believe in our children, and we have to hope for a better tomorrow and a future that's brighter. But we cannot put the future into the hands of Esav. We have to protect the Jacob. Jacob represents the Jewish people who would suffer at the hands of their enemies, the descendants of Esav, anti-Semitism, persecution. And Rebekah says, no, we must empower and bless our son Jacob and fortify him with the blessings, because he needs to be secure in a world where his brother Esav will try time and again to kill him, to murder him, to destroy him. And on a day like today, that we remember the Nuremberg trials 3/4 of a century ago, I'm reminded of the words of Menachem Begin. Menachem Begin said that there are 6 lessons that Jews have to learn from the Holocaust. Lesson number 1 is, he said, that if your enemy says something, believe him. Take him at face value. If he says he's going to kill you, believe it. Don't make the mistake of the Holocaust and say, nah, it can never happen. The second lesson Menachem Begin said we all have to learn from the Holocaust is that when a Jew is threatened anywhere in the world, all Jews around the world must stand up and come to the aid of that Jew. The third lesson that Menachem Begin said we have to learn from the Holocaust is that when we have to learn how to defend ourselves, so when our enemies do come, we can fight back and defend Jewish life. The fourth lesson that Menachem Begin said we have to learn from the Holocaust is that We cannot allow the world to disparage Jews. They cannot humiliate us, because the prelude to physical destruction is humiliation and demoralization. And therefore we have to stand up for Jewish honor, Jewish pride, and Jewish dignity. And the fifth lesson, he said, is that in the face of anti-Semitism, we Jews have to always be united. And the sixth lesson that Menachem Begin said is that if you look at the history of the Jewish people, we rise and fall, we're exiled and we return. We go through these cycles of ups and downs, but with the foundation of the state of Israel, and now the future must remain secure, that we never go into exile again, we never fall again, that we never have to go through the cycle again, and therefore we have to come together and defend ourselves and defend our beloved land of Israel. And indeed, that is what we have to think about on a day like today. Yes, we want to be a blessing to the Esavs. Yes, we want to draw out their goodness and their potential of every human being. But at the same time, we have to realize that we have to secure the blessings for the Jewish people, to protect ourselves and learn the lessons of the past. And with this, the blessings of Isaac conferred upon Jacob, as was the desire of Rebekah, we the Jewish people will go forth with strength, with pride, and with honor. Shabbat Shalom.